1607. So this is the first permanent English colony, Jamestown. It's not the first English colony. Remember the Roanoke colony or the Lost colony as we know it. It's going to be the first colony. The first permanent colony, Jamestown, is going to be settled by the Virginia Company, a joint stock company. And their purpose is to find gold, to make it rich. They want a profit off this colony. So they're sending men, laborers, but mostly gentlemen initially to this colony. Their initial settlement, that is going to be made up, as I said, of mostly gentlemen and also some laborers. And they're given instructions as they go across in 1706. Instructions are going to include to settle 100 miles inland, which they will do on the James River. And they name that after King James I. They will also settle in a little area that's a clearing, so they're not going to have to clear as much wood at first. They will over time, though, as they expand. The one mistake they're going to make, though, is they're going to settle in a very swampy area. And this is bad because it's going to breed disease. As they're in this stagnant water area, dysentery will set in and other diseases from the bad water. They'll also have initial problems with Native Americans early on. The Powhatan tribe is near there, and there is going to be some conflicts over land and expansion of the colony very early on. Let's move and talk about John Smith. I think you've probably seen the Pocahontas Disney movie. It's not historically accurate. John Smith doesn't come over as this hero. He doesn't marry Pocahontas in the end. John Smith initially, when he comes over, he is in shackles and chains in the bottom of the boat. He's not very trusted as far as the leadership of the colony is concerned. He's 27 years old. He's short, stocky, redheaded. And he does end up getting captured by the Powhatan tribe, and there's myths or legends Pocahontas saved him or an elderly woman within the tribe saved him. But he does, when he comes back to the tribe, he does two major things that you really need to know about. Number one is that he will help the colony move to a new location of the James River, and that's going to help the colony become more stable. Because you're not having the dysentery problems and that kind of thing that you were in the swampy area. And the next thing that he'll help to do is he really comes up with the slogan that he that shall not work shall not eat. And the problem has been that a lot of the gentlemen coming over aren't used to hard labor. They're focused on searching for gold. And so the colony is starting to fail a little bit as you're getting into 1608 and 1609. It's not going as strong as what they expected. Captain Newport is going to leave the colony. He's going back for more supplies, and he's away from the colony during 1609. This is going to be the harshest winter. The winter of 1609 to 1610 is going to be considered the starving period or starving time of Jamestown. Okay, you know that Captain Newport has gone. He's coming back with supplies, and they were going to increase the colony as well. They were going to up it to about 800 men are coming over. Unfortunately, what happens, though, in 1609 is that there's a shipwreck in Bermuda, and so a lot of the supplies will not make it to Jamestown at that point. They're going through the winter. The starving period has kicked in. They're lacking food. They're lacking supplies. And also, problems have increased with Native Americans as well. John Smith, by this point, had gone back to England, and the Powhatan tribe knew this. They had respected John Smith and feared him to a certain extent as well. And so they had stopped some of the warfaring between the English and the Native Americans at that point. And when John Smith leaves, that's going to restart. Okay, so not only is the Jamestown colony running out of food, but they're also having increased problems with Native Americans. As you read in your activity yesterday, there's some rumors about whether or not the Spanish are trying to poison the Jamestown colony so that they can take over the land. Yes, there is an instance of cannibalism, which one man will be hanged for that crime once things are back under control. By springtime of 1610, out of the 400 initial people that were there in 1609, only 60 will make it through the winter. So you can see how dire the situation was. Gates and Dale, who were bringing the supplies back, when they get back, they'll actually impose martial law. At this point, Thomas West will become the governor, and they'll bring the colony back under control. It's got supplies, and it will make it through that worst time, which we refer to as the starving time. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is the Anglo-Powhatan Wars. There's really a series of these wars that you need to understand. The first series of the wars takes place from around 1610 to 1614, which we initially talked about earlier on. This is called the First Anglo-Powhatan War. And during this time, Pocahontas is going to be taken as prisoner or hostage. She ends up marrying John Rolfe, who is going to be the person that brings tobacco, brown gold, and really helps that get started strong in the colonies. She ends up converting to Christianity, changes her name to Rebecca, and with that marriage in 1614, that Anglo-Powhatan War will cease for a little while, okay? And then eventually it will start up again in 1644 to 1646 with the final peace treaty in 1646 that will remove the Powhatans from their land, and that solidifies the Jamestown colony's control over the territory. Okay, let's talk about tobacco next. This is really where the Jamestown colony is going to make their profit. Remember, they weren't finding much gold in Virginia, so what they will consider to be brown gold will be tobacco. Now, initially, again, John Rolfe comes into play here as one of the people that you would associate with the growth of tobacco in the colony. In 1618, you're talking about 20,000 pounds are being produced, so you're making a really strong profit there. By 1629, when over 1.5 million pounds are produced, you're going to see a drop in the prices of tobacco because there's just so much supply for it at that point. And, you know, if your supply exceeds demand, eventually your price is going to drop from economics last year. Okay, now in growing tobacco, you're going to need a good workforce. And initially, Jamestown will start out with indentured servitude or the headright system. Both of those will be included, and they're in a way tied together. Now, indentured servants are very much different than slaves. They're individuals that they might have their passage paid for by someone or a debt paid off by someone in order to come over to the colony in the New World. And they're going to work for about 4 to 7 years. Typically, they might be given clothes or food or some money at the end of their service to start a life there. And it's a limited term of service to pay off a debt. Okay? The headright system, you could pay for indentured servants to come over or pay passage for someone, a laborer of some sort, to come over. And if you did, then you would receive about 50 acres of land roughly in payment for that. So that's going to encourage people to come over to the New World. It's going to help to grow the colony. Because if you think about it, how many people are going to want to come over when, you know, the death rates here, the life expectancy is about 40 years old. You know, the children that are born in the colony, you know, I think it's like 70% die by the age of 5. It's not, you're not having a lot of luck here as far as survival rates are concerned, so you're taking your chances. With that being said, you're still going to have some people that want to come over and start a new life and pioneer this new world. And the headright system is a way to help that along, that people will receive land if they're putting into the colony in some way. Okay, and that headright system is going to be used also in the Carolinas and several other colonies as well to grow the membership. Now, in 1619 is going to bring the first slaves into the colony. In 1619, a Dutch ship will bring the first shipment of slaves into the colony, and at that point, the slavery system will take hold within the colony itself. One additional thing I want to mention, we'll be talking when I get back about the Middle Passage and the triangular trade for the colonies as a whole. So just kind of keep that in mind, but 1619 is the starting date. Now, the next thing I want to mention is the House of Burgesses. This is the first legislative body within the colonies, okay? It's going to be bicameral, meaning 2 houses, very similar to Parliament where you have an upper house and a lower house, and very similar in that they're making laws and they have kind of the strings to the colonial purse, if you will, that they're going to control the money and the budget. It's important to understand that this is really going to be one of the first seeds of democracy in the new colonies, which will eventually become the United States. Here you have this legislative body that's bicameral. The people are making decisions. They're electing representatives or appointing representatives, depending on what stage of the colony you're talking about. And within that is going to be a model for further democracy down the road. So just keep that in mind, because you never know when you're going to get that question on how does democracy develop in the colonies. With each colony, we need to keep in mind that's a key concept from College Board that we need to focus on. Okay, that's going to be the end of this video on Jamestown, and the next video you need to look at will be on the Massachusetts colonies, which you just will need to look at in Google Classroom. It should be there as well. Thank you.